세계에서 가장 인기 있는 보이밴드 BTS, 그들의 군대 입대 문제는 세계 언론들의 관심사가 되었습니다. 더군다나 넷플릭스의 군대 문제를 다루는 한국 드라마 DP가 공개되면서 한국의 군대 문화에 대한 정보와 관심도 더 많아졌는데요. 오늘은 해외 언론도 주목하고 있는 BTS 입대 문제에 대한 소식들 모았습니다. 일간소울 영어입니다.
A K-pop supergroup's massive popularity won't get them an exemption from mandatory military service. BTS, 3 letters, that's all you have to say. Everybody knows them. How surprised were you that they might have to do this compulsory military service?
Actually wasn't that surprised because their predecessors, who are also huge, like Big Bang, have all had to serve. It didn't really necessarily hurt their popularity. It didn't really necessarily hurt their popularity.
The fans, diehard fans, have been petitioning for the same. Why hasn't it gone through for these guys?
I think it really comes down to the fact that BTS themselves have been very clear that they see their military service as a duty, and they've never, at least in public, said that, you know, we're going to look for a way out of this. We're going to look for a way out of this.
So able-bodied men have to serve by the time they are turned 28, unless they are seen to improve the country's cultural status and boost the economy. And clearly BTS qualifies. But, I mean, do we think this is technically fair?
Well, I do think it's technically fair. Olympic athletes are given the same exception because that amount of time in their lives is so critical to an athlete's career. And the same could be argued for entertainers. And the same could be argued for entertainers. So if those athletes are getting exceptions, then I do think BTS merits it. But what also amazed me was that when this story was first reported earlier this week, it made headlines in places like the New York Times and also at TMZ. And it's a little bit of a cultural education as to how the star system and the culture works in South Korea.
A recent survey showed that most South Koreans support some type of deferral for K-pop idols that contribute to South Korea's international reputation.
Frank, tell us more about this mandatory military service in South Korea. How long has it been in place? How long has it been in place?
They started mandatory military service here, conscription, back in 1957. That's just 3 years or 4 years after the Korean War ended.
Yeah, what are those months of training like? Are some soldiers actually patrolling the border between North and South Korea, for example?
If you're deployed near the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, it's the most heavily fortified border in the world. In terms of the boring end of things, former president of South Korea, Roh Moo-hyun, said serving military service was really kind of a waste of time. And since then, especially liberal administrations here in South Korea have tried to find ways of reducing the terms of service and making it a little bit easier.
Good news for fans of the South Korean boy band BTS. The country has changed the law, so K-pop stars like them will not have to sign up for compulsory military conscription, at least until they're 30 years old. Paul.
People like this can wait until they're 30. Global Korean superstar boy band BTS by then would be more of a man band. The legal change, however, only applies to anyone who improves the country's cultural status and boosts the economy. Up until now, the only people who've been given exemptions are musicians and athletes. Spurs striker Son Heung-min, who plays in England's Premier League, was also given a special pass, opting for shooting at goal instead of the border with North Korea. BTS, or the Bangtan Boys, literally means Bulletproof Boy Scouts. One day, they'll get the chance to prove it.
So Jin will now be able to perform for 2 more years at what could be the height of BTS's success. Interestingly enough, the bill to revise the law was introduced in September, shortly after BTS became the first ever South Korean group to top the US Billboard Hot 100 chart with their song Dynamite. This has led to many people referring to the revision as the BTS bill. Obviously, the BTS Army members are extremely excited about this news, and they're happy Jin will be able to stick around for 2 more years. One person chimed in saying, BTS military enlistment is postponed until the age of 30. What a time to be alive. And this fan tweeted, "Hooray! Armies worldwide, we got another 2 years of relief from Jin military enlistment." Regardless of how you feel exactly about the law revision and K-pop exemptions, it's definitely exciting that we will get more time with all the BTS boys performing together.
주요 표현들 다시 들어볼까요?
It didn't really necessarily hurt their popularity. It didn't really necessarily hurt their popularity. They've never, at least in public, said that, we're going to look for a way out of this. They've never, at least in public, said that, we're going to look for a way out of this.
And the same could be argued for entertainers.
How long has it been in place? How long has it been in place?
If you're deployed near the DMZ,
Up until now, the only people who've been given exemptions are musicians and athletes.
So Jin will now be able to perform for 2 more years at what could be the height of BTS's success.
모든 영상의 출처는 늘 영상 하단에 링크 올려두고 있습니다. 자막과 함께 공부하신 후에 직접 영어 영상을 들어보시는 것도 추천드립니다. 오늘도 나에게 힘이 되는 영어 공부 일간소울 영어였습니다. 구독과 좋아요 눌러주세요.